to the Millcreek Government Channel. I'm Judy Zelina, and today on our program we are going to be talking about the Lupus Foundation. And joining us, I have Jane Lippincott, and Jane is a registered nurse, but she's also the patient services consultant with the Lupus Foundation. And to my right here, I have Donna Larson, and Donna is a lupus patient. So she's going to be telling us her story about her ordeal with lupus. But first off, ladies, for some of our viewers who are not familiar with lupus, I'm glad you're here joining us and letting our viewers know exactly what is lupus.
Lupus is a chronic inflammatory autoimmune disease. When I say autoimmune, that means that your immune system is designed to protect you. But when you have lupus, for some reason, and we don't know why, your immune system turns against you. And so instead of protecting the body, it is almost like the body's at war with itself. Your body produces autoantibodies, or antibodies against your own self, and it can attack any system within your body. There are about 1.5 to 2 million lupus patients who are in the United States, probably about 66,000 Pennsylvanians who live with lupus every day.
What are the signs or the symptoms of lupus?
Well, one of the big ones is fatigue. Lupus patients tell me that they feel like they have the flu all the time. They often have fevers of unknown origin, and they don't understand why the fever comes and goes. Sometimes they have hair loss. They can have problems with their kidneys, like they may have red blood cells or protein in their urine. They also have a lot of joint pain, and it's usually in their smaller joints. They can also have swelling in their joints. They often have mouth ulcers that supposedly don't hurt, but I hear from lupus patients that they do hurt. And they often have Raynaud syndrome, which is when your feet or your hands become very patriotic when they get cold. The vessels constrict in your fingers and in your toes, and it hurts. And they can have difficulty, especially in this kind of a climate, because in the wintertime, it doesn't take much for them to get so cold that they can actually lose circulation and lose digits.
But all those symptoms you really can't see.
No, and if you're talking about the symptoms, Dawn, it sounds like it could be so many different ailments.
Right. One of the things that people can see is the rashes that we get, and one of the symbols for lupus is the butterfly, and that's because we get a butterfly rash. It goes across the cheeks, the bridge of the nose, and down. I've had people say, "Oh, you look so good. You have rosy red cheeks," and it's like I had to tell one of my friends, no, that is lupus. You can tell when I'm having some things because I get, and it showed up today, so it comes across and down, and it comes across my neck as well. But the achiness, joints, but also I get almost like fibromyalgia symptoms with the muscles, the aches in the muscles. But again, we look like we're healthy. You look good, you look too good to be sick. But it does affect all those other things that Janie was talking about in our bodies.
Well, some of our viewers may be thinking right now, what causes lupus? Does anybody know?
No, we don't know. There are different factors that we think play a part. There's a genetic connection.
Okay.
There's a hormonal connection, environmental. There are a lot of products that we use that probably affect us in ways that we don't even realize. Supposedly, a lot of us have 30 predisposing genes, but according to Dr. Wallace, who is an expert, about 10% of us get lupus who have those predisposing genes. So I just read recently that a lupus patient is diagnosed every 30 minutes, which is pretty incredible when you think about that. Most of the people take quite a long time to diagnose. Typically, it's years and many, many doctors. And so, you know, they're kind of known as complainers, hypochondriacs, because they look so great, you know, and people don't understand why they're always complaining. But almost everything that happens, except for their rash, happens inside. And whenever you have inflammation, you have redness, warmth, swelling, and all those things are happening inside in their joints, and they can be a real hindrance to their life.
Okay, what are there any specific tests that you can take a test and say, oh, whoa, right there, it's lupus?
No.
Wish.
Okay, you're
Wish
not
there
making
was.
it easy for me here, ladies.
No, we don't make it easy for the doctors either. And the other thing is, most lupus patients are women. Black, Hispanic, and Asian women are 3 times more likely to have lupus. There are some cultural things where they don't go to the doctor maybe as readily, so they're not diagnosed as quickly. But like Janie said, it's a woman thing, you know. Oh, it's your hormones. Oh, it's this, you know. They just sort of poo-poo some of the symptoms away. But we wish that we knew what the cause was.
And this is why sometimes it can take so long in the diagnosis.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. And the symptoms come and go. The disease goes in flares and remissions. And the goal is to get them to a remission. And some people stay in remission for quite a long time. But because the symptoms don't always come back to the same part of their body, it's a great puzzle to put together. It really takes a lot of time, and it takes a physician who is willing to sit and listen. And a lot of physicians don't have that kind of time.
John, I was going to ask, how long ago were you diagnosed with lupus?
I was diagnosed in 2001. I had a lot of symptoms, of course, had no idea that I had lupus. I have an uncle that has lupus, and when he was diagnosed years ago, it was like it was this fatal disease. Because by the time people were diagnosed, usually it had attacked so much of the body that it usually was fatal back then. But I was one of the lucky ones. I was diagnosed within a year and only 3 doctors. I started with a primary care doctor, and my lupus affects my blood. So I have a low white blood cell count, and it affects my red blood cells in that as they mature, they get smaller. And I have a lot of just large red blood cells. They must get killed off before they actually mature. But my white blood cell count, I went to the doctor and they did some routine blood work. And my white blood cell count was 2.9, which is very low. So I went to a hematologist and had different tests and bone marrow biopsies, et cetera. And she sent me to the rheumatologist. Dr. Teresa Fryer here in Erie is my doctor, and through all the things she diagnosed me. But I had symptoms when I was a child. I just didn't know it. When I was in elementary school, I would get rashes and they would, and fevers, and they would try to send me home thinking I had the measles. So I would wear turtlenecks and long sleeves so that the rashes weren't, you know, visible, and because otherwise I was healthy, you know.
And you just couldn't pinpoint that, and it would go away, so you didn't think too much of it.
Right. And, you know, I was tired because I just did too much and whatever, and people were just tired. And
you were always able to explain away the symptoms with your lifestyle.
Yes.
A growth spurt, or
you know, achy because I had hurt my back and I was in a car accident. So, you know, well, and you just have this achiness, you know. But when they started looking at things and going down, there's a checklist that you can go down also, you know, and if you have so many symptoms, it could be lupus, you know.
Now, is there a treatment for lupus?
Well, there is a rheumatologist, as Donna said.
And that's the doctor that you would work with?
That's right.
Okay.
They're the specialist that knows the most about autoimmune disease. There are drugs that we give to lupus patients. A lot of times there's a lot of confusion and misconceptions because your immune system, when you have lupus, is working on high alert, overtime, all the time, producing all these autoantibodies. And so what we try to do is shut down the immune system. So often they're given chemotherapy or transplantation drugs, drugs that will keep their immune system at bay, not working so hard, because when it's working, it's producing all the symptoms internally and causing damage. So we haven't had any new drugs in 50 years. The only drug that is approved for lupus care is aspirin by the FDA.
You're kidding me.
But this year in March, we have very exciting news. There's a new drug that has come to market. It's called Benlysta. And it's kind of, if you think of our war in Iraq, you know, we can either bomb a whole area and hope we've hit some kind of target, or we can be very specific, like with a drone. Well, Benlysta is much more specialized and hits specific areas rather than shutting down their whole immune system, which is great. There are a couple things that are problems. One, it's very expensive. Two, it doesn't always help every patient. That's the other thing about lupus patients. Not only is their journey with lupus and how it affects their body very individual, but their treatment is also very individual. So what works for Donna may not work for you if you were a lupus patient, or me. So it is a very complicated disease.
It certainly is.
Well, and I'm on prednisone, and it's a wonderful, horrible drug. It's wonderful in that it keeps my white blood cell count up to almost normal. But the side effects, and that's the problem with the drugs that they give us. I mean, she talked about chemotherapy drugs. You know the side effects from chemotherapy drugs. Prednisone, you have to watch your cholesterol. You have to watch
sugar.
For diabetes, for sugar. But it also inhibits bones growth, bones coming back. So osteoporosis, can be something that happens. The weight gain, the whatever, it affects other things in your body that then you're fighting lupus, but then you're also fighting, the side effects of the medications you're on. So it's very difficult.
Oh my goodness. Now, for some of our viewers, if they know someone that's been diagnosed with lupus or they've just recently been diagnosed with lupus, do we have any support groups locally?
Yes, I have a support group at St. Vincent's Health Center. It's the fourth Thursday of every month from 6 until 7:30, and we're meeting in the OR conference room. It's a great place for them to get encouragement, and it's also great because they're able to talk with other lupus patients. They have a real connection, even though their disease process may be different. There are a lot of similarities and ways that they can encourage each other.
Because I think it'd be so frightening to just be diagnosed and not really know what's going to happen. How is this going to change my lifestyle?
Right.
Which is another thing we want to touch base on. How does lupus affect your daily routine?
Oh, it affects everything in your life. The fatigue that we deal with is great. And it's not someone can say, oh, I stayed up until 2 o'clock and watched the end of that game and I'm really tired today. It's a whole different fatigue that just comes over you, and it can happen at any minute. You could be having a very fine day, you know, and going about, and all of a sudden you're so tired, or this feeling comes over you that you just have to go home. It affects how you schedule things, you know, the trip here today and being out all day today, you know, I will pay for it, you know, maybe not tomorrow, but the next day, you know. You can't schedule things and say, oh yes, I'll definitely come to that, because it depends how you're feeling that morning. And it affects my whole family, because there's things that I can't do. My kids used to say, someone would be on the phone and they would say, oh, she's sleeping on the couch like she always does. I was working at the time. I don't work now, I'm on disability. But when I was working, I would give everything I had in that 8 hours, and I would come home and I would say, oh, I just have to lay down for a minute, you know, and they would wake me up. My husband would have to cook dinner, and they would wake me up, you know, to eat, and then I may take another nap or whatever. It just affects everything that you do, and affects friendships. You know, people don't like being around someone that isn't as reliable, or can't just on the spur of the moment go and do things, you know.
So things that so many of us just take for granted.
Take for granted.
Like we were talking, if somebody called and said, oh, Judy, you know, let's meet for dinner and then go see a movie or something, I'd say, oh, okay, that's fine. There's times you couldn't do that, because by that point you may be exhausted, depending on what you've done.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
So, oh my goodness, it is quite a journey. Phew, I'll tell you. You know, with the Lupus Foundation, wonderful organization, wonderful that you've got a support group right here in Erie. What is your mission, the Lupus Foundation's actual mission?
Our mission is primarily to provide services for lupus patients, and we do that through a lot of different ways. We have support groups, we do educational programs, we do programs for the community so that there is an awareness of what lupus is. And I would say that that is improving, that a lot more people seem to know someone or something about lupus. We have fundraisers. We're connected with the LRI, which is the Lupus Research Institute, and it is the largest organization that is doing novel research. It's in 23 states, and they have a considerable amount of money that they're being given. And because their research is so vital, after the 3 years that most of these scientists spend, they are given further grants by NIH, the National Institute of Health, to continue their research. So it's very exciting in these past, I would say, 5 to 6 years to see. It's almost like lupus is on the spotlight, and people are really looking to find the cause and a cure for this very puzzling disease.
Well, it sounds promising with the new drug you were talking about that's going to be introduced.
Right.
You know, and then again, that's from research.
That's
and
right.
Now, the fundraisers, what are some of your fundraisers that you do have for Lupus Foundation?
Our annual fundraiser is a walk. We call it the Lupus Loop. It used to be at Presque Isle, but Erie is the furthest point in my area, which is the 9 most northwestern counties of the state. And so it's very hard to get all of the people who are in Warren or McKean or Forest or Mercer or Venango to drive all that way. Again, because they only have so much energy.
Right.
So I've tried to move things to a more central area. So we meet at Roche Park, which is just outside of Meadville. So the people from Erie have a little drive. It's more around an hour for people to come.
So it's more of a central location?
Yes.
Okay,
it's
good.
a beautiful little park. This year, the Outback Steakhouse from Erie came and catered our lunch, and it was wonderful. It was just terrific. One of the important things for lupus patients is to eat a healthy diet. And I'm a nurse. I am not a fundraiser. So when I would go to look for food that we might have for lunch, I would end up with pizza and hot dogs not very healthy things, and the Outback was able to provide a very nice, healthy lunch, and it was a great gift that they gave to us.
It sounds like you have a lot of community support.
Yes.
For this walk. Now you're talking about the Loop, which is a walk. Now, isn't this difficult for lupus patients to do the walk and then also help out and volunteer? In other words, what I'm trying to get at, there's always a need for volunteers in your organization, right?
Oh, yes. Yes. It is very hard for them. And Donna used to do a tremendous amount, but she moved. And so it's very hard for her to come this distance to help with a walk. She still helps tremendously.
Right.
But yes, I could use volunteers. I do have Union Latino at Allegheny College. It's a group of 20 students who came and volunteered this year. They did a super job. And you know, lupus is a young woman's disease. It strikes women between the ages of 15 to 45. And most young women on college campuses are not thinking at all about the possibility of being sick. And so the more connections that I have with colleges and universities, the easier it is to get the word out to those who really need to know about lupus.
Well, when I was doing some research before the program, I did get on the website, and it has a wealth of information. And also there's a newsletter.
Yes.
I saw that, and I did print that out. So if anybody is looking for some more information, what is your website, and also a number if they need to talk with somebody?
Okay. The website is www.lupus, and it's spelled LUPUSPA.org. My toll-free number is 866-292-1472. And my office is in my home, so you can leave a message at any time, and I'll call you back after I receive your message if I don't happen to be there.
When I was first diagnosed in 2001, it was a kind of a transition time for the Lupus Foundation. They lost their patient service coordinator up here, and they didn't have anyone, and I didn't know where to go or what to do to get more information. And at that point in time also, I was maybe putting my head in the sand, but I didn't want to know what all could happen to me. Some people go and they do all this research, you know, because they want to know everything that could happen. And I knew that there were lots of things and it could get really bad, but I didn't want to know at that point in time because I didn't want to maybe, they say that women are hypochondriacs or whatever. I didn't want to get some of the symptoms because I thought that I was going to get them, if you understand what I mean.
I do.
But then Janie was hired, and the Lupus Foundation is wonderful. The support that we get from her and from the Lupus Foundation, definitely give her a call. She calls and checks on us if we need more information, whatever. So calling her at her toll-free number she's been a godsend to our area, and being able to meet with other lupus patients, with the support groups and everything is it's a wonderful point to start with if you want more information.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Our time's coming to an end here. Jane, thank you so much for driving up here and joining us. And Donna, I really appreciate you being on the program and letting our viewers know your journey. It has not been easy. And again, thanks for letting people know how important the Lupus Foundation has been to you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to give Jane a call or toll-free number or look on the website. And viewers, thank you for tuning in to the Millcreek Government Channel.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
oh, it's been a pleasure.
Much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Until next time, viewers, have a wonderful day.